guys. So, more SDF rambling in the, you know, channel or whatever. Also, there's patch notes today, and I was playing Dark and Darker like yesterday, and I'm playing it today. Just I'm doing my demigod grind. So, if I was doing that, I figure I would do another video where I just go over like all the stuff SDF says. I mean, he talks about some kind of important, like some important stuff, but like he doesn't talk about it in a good way. He talks about it in like a bad way of like, hey, this stuff's important, but we're not doing it, sort of. But I thought I'd just record a video. Also, just want to say I am live recording this. I'm streaming when I'm recording it. So if you guys hear me like talking to somebody, it's replying to somebody in chat. Okay, what's up, Chris? But for the most part, I will try to focus on just recording the video like normal. So to start off with, SDF. Today, I'd like to pick up where we left off with the blue maelstrom, which is the water map, and share a bit of my thoughts on random dungeon high roller in the circle as well. Obviously, like very, very important topic that's been very highly debated recently. As many of you know, this map has been a huge challenge for us, and to be honest, that challenge still isn't completely over. I know a lot of people wonder why we felt the need to create this map at all, and some believe it was unnecessary. That's true. Most people wonder why they made it, and it is unnecessary. Completely valid. Those are both absolutely true takes. Completely unnecessary to make the map, and everybody wonders why they decided to do it. Anyways, I understand those opinions, and I empathize with them as well. He doesn't. But even so, there were two reasons we felt this map needed to be made. The first reason is that whenever we create new content, we place a lot of value on giving players a truly new experience. We imagine adventurers crossing a storm-torn sea, sailing through whirlpools, and diving into the depths in search of long-forgotten treasure buried beneath the waves, overcoming dangerous sea creatures along the way. The fantasy of the ocean has always lived in people's hearts, right alongside pirates and seafaring legends. We wanted to bring that sense of adventure to life in a way that you could actually explore and enjoy. Okay, problem with this is they didn't. Like, everything he said here is relatively true about like everybody loves pirate games and like the sea and stuff like that, and it's like very it's something people want. The problem is, and the reason that even though a lot of people want this sort of thing and the reason it doesn't exist is because it's really hard to execute, incredibly so. Like if you look out there, aren't really any successful like pirate themed games, or just like games where you're mostly on the ocean. One of the only ones I can actually think of is like Sea of Thieves. And even then, that game's like, I don't know how many people play it now, but that's not what I would call a massively successful game. But that's the best one you have. You don't really have anything else. And that's not to say a lot of games haven't tried, because a lot of games have tried. It's just so difficult to do that most people either think it's not worth the time and effort they put into it, or they try it and they fail it. Like, there have been plenty of games like that. Like, if I were to think of one, it's Atlas. If you guys ever played that, it's made by the same people that made Ark, Survival Evolved. They made Atlas. That game, fundamentally, great idea. In actual execution, the game just fails, is what it is. And those games are on, like, a larger scale of, like, ship fights and stuff, rather than just, this game doesn't have ships. You're just in a map, and, like, it's not like a pirate map, really, or you're, like, sailing. It's more of just, it's a water map. It's like a big pool. Right? And like you're not in the ocean, you're just in a really large pool and you're swimming around, and it's not nearly as fun as like what a water map is, like sailing on it and stuff like that. And then fundamentally, like the first thing they say is whenever we try to create new content, we place a lot of value giving players a truly new experience. Like, that isn't necessarily a good thing. Which sounds weird, right? It's like, of course, like having a new experience for your players, like that's like a lot of people are gonna like enjoy that. But the problem is, like, there is a limit to what you can do within the confines of your game, and if you are constantly trying to push that with every new big piece of content that comes out, eventually you are going to stray so far away from your original idea from the game that brought people to it to begin with, that people aren't going to like what you're doing anymore, which is exactly what this is. If you look at some of the recent classes they've added, I say recent, but things like Druid, things like Sorcerer, the Water Map, all of these are things that have been going further and further away from the original idea of the game and the original concept that people like kind of fell in love with, that it is starting to, instead of bring people back, it's actively pushing people away because of all of these reasons that I just stated. It just doesn't feel like the game anymore. And the Blue Maelstrom is like, that's a great example. It doesn't feel like, when I play that map, I don't feel like I'm playing Dark and Darker. It feels like it feels like they made a map that doesn't, like, if Dark and Darker were like a different game, if it were like like an adventure game, like a PvE adventure game, then yeah, the map would fit perfectly. But it doesn't fit with what I know about Dark and Darker and how I play Dark and Darker. And that's true for most people. I think pretty much like everybody agrees with me there. So this is the problem of, like, instead of trying to create these new experiences, you should do what's tried and true. You should be trying to make stuff that you know your players are going to like and you know they're going to want. Like, what do people love in Dark and Darker? They love crypts. They love that sort of thing. They love the Inferno. They love the actual dungeon, you know, like that sort of experience. They don't want something brand new. And going a step further than this, I mean, I said this in the last video. I'm sure some of you guys thought I was trolling, but no, this was serious. SDF talked about making a space map. Like, what the fuck? Like, what are we gonna do on a space map? Am I gonna be on the moon? I don't want to be on the moon. Like, I don't want that at all. That's not the game that I play. It doesn't make any sense. And he wasn't kidding when he said that. He was like being serious about making that as a map. But that's just like the level of what I'm talking about, of like, you're starting to get so far away from the game, you're not even really like, it's not what it is anymore. Like, you know, what it became originally isn't what it is any longer, and it ends up, like I said, ends up pushing people away. People don't want to play it. Anyways, the second reason that we wanted to explore the limits of what we can express in this game, and in doing so, give the team a chance to break through those limits and grow. See, like, this is stupid. I mean, this is just like, this is one of those things that just, you do not do this whenever, like, you don't do this when your game is, like, struggling. This is one of those things that you do when your game is massively successful, and you're like, well, what else can we do? Like, we need something even bigger than what we did before, like Fortnite. Fortnite does this, and they can do it as much as they want because they have a massively successful game. You know, all their crazy season-ending events and everything where they, like, you know, how big can we make this? How crazy can we make this? How can we one-up ourselves what we've done before? It's like, you guys should, like, you're not in a position to do that. Like, you guys have clear, like, you guys can, like, you can't. There's no, like, one-upping. Like, everything you've released has just been constantly, like, on the decline. You've been making things that are worse and worse and worse than what was made originally. Like, much less break through your limits and grow. Like, you guys are, like, going in reverse. It's like you're nowhere near your limit because you're going away from it. You're not growing, you're, like, receding. Instead of a plant sprouting out the ground, you're going back and from the what little growth you had, you were going back into your seed. You were receding. Pun intended. But, like, it's just not good. And once again, right here, as history has shown, underwater combat is notoriously difficult to implement. When we first considered it, we have plenty of concerns as well, but that's exactly why I felt it was worth challenging. And if we could make underwater combat feel good, we believed it could become a genuinely fun new experience. But you didn't. And, like, there's a reason. It's like, literally like I said. There is a reason that no one does this. That it just basically doesn't exist anywhere else. Because it's so hard to do and it's so difficult to do that much better companies with a lot more money than you guys and a lot larger dev teams have failed to do it. And guess what? They failed to do it as well. They implemented it and it's terrible. It isn't fun. Literally the worst part about the water map is the water. The stuff where you're on land feels a lot better, but the moment you jump in the water and start fighting, it just feels horrible. And it's like I said, all of their concerns that they had were valid, and it was not worth challenging because you guys just spent a year making a map that in your heads you knew, this could pose a lot of issues, and you didn't solve any of them. Literally none. The underwater combat does not feel good. You did not succeed in your goal. It feels terrible and it's not fun to play. Like, sorry, your game sucks and you guys messed up. And, like, could it have been a fun new experience? Yes. Like, I'm not sitting here saying that, like, no one will ever do this successfully, because I think if it is done successfully, it will be amazing. I just don't think they have the capability. It's like I said, they're not doing this off the back of 100 successes. It's, you failed 100 times in a row, and you're like, well, we're going to go even further beyond. Like, we're going to try something even harder, right? It's like, no, you don't do that, right? Like, if you don't understand addition and subtraction, then you're not going to move on to multiplication and division. You know, you have to understand the basics and the fundamentals before you get onto the more complex issues. You don't just fail, fail, and then keep improving the difficulty of what you're doing. You have to beat the easy level to get to the normal, and you have to beat the normal to get to the hard. You don't just jump straight to the end after constantly losing. That's not how that works. You're just going to fail even more. Personally, I'm quite satisfied with the initial implementation, and I'm confident that with continued tuning, we can bring it to a really solid place. We're aware that certain classes struggle, such as not being able to use fire magic underwater, and we'll work on ways to make sure they have viable options. That said, unfortunately, fire is still not going to work underwater. Saying he's satisfied with the initial implementation is just crazy to me. Because, like, have you played the game? It feels awful. Like, genuinely, it feels terrible. It does not feel good at all to play. How are you satisfied with that? Or, like, how low was your bar to for this to be like, oh yeah, I'm good with that. I don't get it. In addition, we carried out a lot of research and development working to implement underwater movement for both players and monsters, as well as mounts and zip lines. I'm sorry that still doesn't look completely polished yet. We've made meaningful progress internally, and I'm confident that the experience and knowledge we gain through this process will be a valuable asset for our future development. Heard that before. Based on this foundation, we'll continue refining the rougher parts of player and monster movement and work towards completing it with much better precision. And someday, I really want us to like. This is why I'm like, bro, like, what are you? Why though? Like, why? Why? That's all. Like, just why? That's what I ask. Why? Why do you want us to explore space? We don't want to explore it. I doubt any of you guys want to explore it. I know I don't. I don't want to go to space because it doesn't make any sense. That's not the game I play. I don't want to go to space. I don't do it. I don't want to. I'm playing a medieval swords and magic game. I do not want to go to space. I do not want them to spend a year working on a space map, working on low gravity mechanics. Like, it's just no. Please God, do not do that. Like, your game is literally falling apart at the seams and you are trying to build even higher. It doesn't make any sense. There are still some serious issues in the Blue Maelstrom. Performance problems, water crossing sections still becoming visible, rough transition of moving from water to land, even physics bugs that occasionally launch players into the sky. Many bugs I'm honestly sorry to even mention, but we'll continue to fix them one by one, steadily and carefully. Like, keep in mind, you had a year to work on this. A year. And there are still, like, multiple, like, huge bugs in this. It's like, you know. I understand. I'm well aware that many of you have negative feelings about the circle, so I'd like to talk about it for a moment. It seems there may be a bit of misunderstanding. My appreciation for the circle isn't because I'm a fan of PUBG, but because I believe it has the following advantages. Random extraction portals. Having a controlled number of random portals creates situations where players must compete with each other to escape, and since higher tier gear provides an advantage in that competition, it gives more meaning and value to actually wearing good gear. No. Um, could be, but no. How this works in the game is not true because you have a ridiculous amount of portals that spawn and they start spawning incredibly early. So if you want to get out, it's very, very easy to find an extract without ever actually fighting players because there's only so many people on the map and they're not all looking for extracts at the same time. It's and the thing is the people with the better gear are either taking reds and going all the way down, and if they are taking blues, they're usually taking one of the last sets of blues. So if you wanted to avoid them, you just take blues earlier. And the area is so large, you have plenty of there's plenty of ability to find a blue without ever seeing the team. I mean, I do this all the time, especially in something like solos. In solos, if the circle covers 4 modules, which is like less than a quarter of the map left, it's still very, very easy to avoid people. Like 4 modules is a big point that you can't just run around and find people. And even if you do, they can run from you. It's just that's not how this works. Once again, this is one of those things that's like on paper it seems to make sense, but when you actually play the game, you realize like no, that's not the case. And this comes from him not playing the game and not understanding how the game works. Additionally, because the portal locations keep changing, players end up fighting in many different level modules instead of the same spots over and over. Combined with the random dungeon system, I believe this helps reduce the feeling of repeating the same adventure endlessly. It doesn't. This is irrelevant. It doesn't. Preventing crow play in a natural way. I'm well aware that High Roller, highly mobile class with low gear, can follow geared players around and swoop in to steal rewards during chaotic fights, and that this creates a poor experience for top-level competitive players. I still consider this a valid style of play, so I didn't want to restrict it with artificial rules like forcing slow interaction speeds or other hard limitations. At the same time, I also didn't want this to become the most efficient strategy to the point where everyone feels pressured to play this way. That's why, within the combination of the circle and random extraction portals, my hope was that players would naturally equip higher gear to gain an advantage in the competition to survive and escape. And even highly mobile classes would have their movements somewhat constrained by the circle, helping prevent this strategy from becoming overwhelmingly dominant. Once again, exact same thing like I just mentioned. On paper, this seems to make sense. But when you actually play the game, it doesn't make any sense at all. Literally none. Because the thing is, they don't this is the thing. Like, you hope people equip gear to gain an advantage in the competition, survive, and escape. But, that's the thing. They don't wear gear because, so if they die, they don't care. They have no, the incentive to escape doesn't exist until they've, ripped loot off a body. Before you've done that, they don't care about escaping because they don't have to, they have nothing to lose. They queue up in Squire Kit, and if they die, oh well, I lost 100 gold in my entry fee, I queue up and do it again. And then once you get items, at that point, for the most part, it's already kind of too late. You can just kind of freely run away from people. The only way, you ever make this playstyle, hindered is you have to actually grief, like you have to actually like grief them or prevent them from doing it by the longer interaction times and stuff like that. Otherwise, it just makes it not good. And then saying circle, you know, limits where people are, like limits their mobility doesn't make sense. Like I mean, the circle, like if you want that, you have to make the circle actually do damage, which and right now it doesn't. You can pretty freely run through the circle for a long time and not really care about how much damage it does to you. So it doesn't really do anything. Um, and that's what's like fundamentally, it just doesn't like he doesn't understand what he's saying. Like I said, like this entire thing here, like my hope was that players would naturally equip higher gear to gain an advantage of the competition, survive, and escape. Like I like this isn't like he. I don't think he seems to understand. Escaping in this game is not difficult. Like it's really, really not. You can very, very easily get a blue basically every game. Like if you die in this game or don't escape, it's almost entirely because you decided to fight somebody. I can't think of many situations where I've ever died, unless I'm like being greedy or something, where I was actively looking for an escape and I just couldn't find one. It's actually pretty hard to do that. It's really hard to die in this game if you are avoiding fights and actively looking for blues to escape. And that's what these players are doing. They're not actually like they're not looking to fight people. All they're looking to do is loot dead bodies or loot random like stuff and then just leave. That's all they do. They have no incentive of fighting. So escaping for them is actually incredibly easy. And funny enough, because these players don't have gear on, they are more likely to survive because you have less incentive to chase them. If they wore gear, they actually probably have a harder time surviving because you see them and you're like, oh, I know this guy has gear. I can actually chase him down. It's worth my time. Versus, even if I chase this guy down and kill him, I don't gain anything for it. I just lost time, which is a big issue. It's a big problem that it currently exists. And even if they like strip gear off a body, at the same time, it's like I can chase this person down and maybe get the items back and maybe kill them, and I don't even know if the items are good. Or I just move on and cut my losses and do something else, and I just let them leave because chances are I probably can't catch them anyways. Because if it's like a druid or something, you can't catch a druid that's running, which is like it's funny. Like he talks about this, and one of the main issues with this is the druid class. Because if a druid is deciding to run from you, which they've said multiple times that it's the most mobile class and it's designed that way, where if they want to run from you, you can't catch them. If a druid wants to run from me after looting a body, I can't catch him. There's nothing I can do to stop him. Literally nothing. Just doesn't work. Zone's not going to stop that. There were also other reasons, such as wanting to give veteran adventurers a more hardcore, like. Okay, that's that. Okay, I'm assuming this is talking about the zone and not about the rats. Anyways, however, after seeing how the circle works and the blue maelstrom and how players interact with it, I was able to clearly understand the exact reasons why players dislike the circle. The layout of Blue Maelstrom, where the bosses are placed in two opposite corners of the map, ended up being very unsuitable for boss grinding when combined with the circle. As we reviewed the new modes and analyzed the different player groups and their preferences, we found that Squire Riches and Arena players generally had little issue with the circle, while players who enjoy any of the extraction modes had much stronger concerns about it. From the perspective of an extraction player, it is completely understandable to feel that its design element, which only disrupts one of their core goals, such as boss grinding, does not fit the genre. I fully agree with that sentiment. For these reasons, the circle will be removed from High Alert in the future. However, we look for ways to preserve the strengths mentioned above in different forms of design. There is a good chance that the extraction system itself will undergo a significant change, and this change may apply to both normal and High Roller. Because of this, it will take some time before the circle is fully removed from High Roller. But why? But why though? Like, this is another thing they do. It's, hey guys, this is an issue. Hey guys, we understand this is an issue, and we're going to fix it. But we're not going to do it now. Why? Who knows? This just like see, this is one of the things that yet again it is a fundamental like flaw on Iron Mace's part, and it is a reason people don't play this game. You acknowledge something is an issue, you say it, constantly, and say we're gonna fix it, but we're not gonna do it yet. Like they could remove the circle tomorrow if they wanted to. It is not hard at all. You don't need an alternative to do it. You don't. Like, oh, well, guys, we removed circle, so we have to do this. No, you don't have to do that. Remove circle, add back static blues, boom, solved. It just doesn't make sense why they would, like, refuse to, why they would refuse to do it. I really don't get it. I don't, it's just dumb. And then saying, like, and the thing is, like, it's not even guaranteed. There's a good chance that the extraction system itself will undergo significant change, and this change may apply to both normal and high rollers. Because of this, it will take some time for the circle is fully removed. So are you not going to remove the circle all the way up until you come up with something that you're going to change normal and high roller to? Like, as an alternative? Because if so, that could be literally months. And who is going to willingly leave a very, very big issue in their game for months just because you haven't come up with an alternative yet? It's like, yes, like if you come up with a good alternative, that's fine. But at the same time, there's no reason to not just remove it now. If you just remove it now, it doesn't hurt the game anyway. It basically only helps. And you've even said for yourself, like the problem with the blue maelstrom, where one boss is on the top left, one boss is on the bottom right, you can't do both of them ever, no matter what. Like, why would you keep that in the game? And that, like, I don't get it. And then this funny enough, and saying arena players generally have little issue with the circle. Like, where do they get that information from? Like, I'm actually, like, honestly, I'm curious. I would like to know, where do they get the information that arena players don't care about the circle from? You know, I wonder. I do. Have they talked to arena players? Have they just I don't know. I don't know where this would come from, but I can say for a fact that the circle in arena, like, I don't know if I would say it's better or worse, but I think it has the exact same issues. Of you are now like you're like either you're forced to play the circle, which is unfun because it's your only win condition, or you're forced to fight before the circle because if the circle closes too much, then you just guaranteed lose. Like if you're melee against triple ranged, or for example, like let's say you're triple melee against triple range, if you don't play the circle, chances are you're going to lose. And if you're triple ranged, if the circle closes, chances are you're going to lose then, right? Like it doesn't really. I don't understand this. It doesn't really make sense. Um, Now I'd like to talk about random dungeons in High Roller. I know that many HR players have been unhappy with the system. As I mentioned earlier, we understand that for extraction players, choosing a specific dungeon is very important. Many players farm certain dungeons for boss grinding, and the choice of dungeon also affects the strengths and weaknesses of the classes they prefer to play. Because of this, we would like to let High Roller players freely choose their dungeon just like a normal mode. However, with the current system, doing so would split the matchmaking pools too much. This would result in many underpopulated ghost dungeons, which would not be a good experience for players and would also create a significant maintenance burden for us. We also tested rotation-based approaches in the past and concluded they'd lead to similar issues, so they're not being considered at the moment. With 4 dungeons, 3 party types, and 2 main modes, allowing players to freely choose among all of them would create 24 separate matchmaking pools with the current number of players in each region. It is not possible to support that many pools. Wait. Yeah, that's good math. It is not possible to support that many pools. Before we decide to whether to keep or remove random dungeon selection, we first need to explore ways to continue introducing new dungeons while still keeping the matchmaking pools at a manageable level. This system also needs to include space for new players to learn the game and for players who need protection from large gear differences. We will do our best to find the most appropriate solution and deliver an improved system as quickly as possible. I'm sorry that we have not been able to provide the best possible environment for you to enjoy the game, and I sincerely appreciate everyone who continues to play despite that. So, easy solution here. You start removing stuff, and you start limiting stuff. Duos, delete it. Boom. God from the game. Because why not? It doesn't need to exist. I don't care. That's your first problem. That's your first solution. Secondly, you start limiting things. Make it so people can only queue certain maps of certain group sizes. That's an easy solution. Or you try a map rotation that actually has a longer period between the rotation. So people can't just sit there and wait to queue the map they want. That's a very easy solution as well. Instead of making it a 3-minute map rotation or a 30-minute map rotation, make it like a day. Hell, make it like a week where you can only play certain maps at certain sizes. That way you heavily limit the pulls while people are also able to play the things they want at certain times. Like that way they're not completely screwed off of it, but you can play it. And the thing is, most people will play any map as long as there are players on it. I mean, that's just the truth. That is. And that's coming from a Trios perspective. And Trios players notoriously hate playing anything that is not crypts. But if you give me Goblin Caves, hell, you give me Ice Caves, Water Map, any of those with a bunch of people on it, then I will play it and I won't really care that much. But that is really the only way that the game is going to work. Like, I think. There isn't any alternative. There isn't one. If there was, somebody would have come up with it by now. Just normal rotation doesn't work. It doesn't. It's terrible for the game. It's not ever going to work like that. Other than that, like I think a space for players to learn the game. That's like PvE. That's Squire to Hero. That's normals. And for players who need protection from large gear differences, guess what? Once again, ring a ding ding. That's normals. If you queue HR and you're crying about gear difference, then move on, buddy. Like who cares? You don't go HR and they complain. Wah! I'm fighting people in really good gear. Wah! Because what the fuck are you doing? Of course you're fighting people in good gear. It's HR. You go normals, you gear cap normals at a certain point, and there you go. Boom. it's good. The Squire to Riches mode that exists is literally just for people to learn the game. That's there. There's that spot, and then normals can be for all the people that don't want to deal with gear difference, and you just limit the gear in normals to like green or blues, and then it's fine. Problem solved. And then you make HR. I mean, hell, you could make it fucking like I said, like a day rotation per map for solo, duo, trio each map. I mean, that doesn't really work with 4 maps, but I mean, you guys get the general idea. Also, maybe we just don't add any more maps until we have some of our major game issues fixed. And, more content for people who actually want to play that is good. Maybe we don't spend a fucking year working on a map that nobody wants to play. Just my thoughts. Um, but the thing is, it's like they keep saying, like, yeah, we've got to come up with solutions for this, or we're gonna come up with solutions for this, and it's like you can't. There aren't like a magical answer that fixes everything isn't gonna pop out. It's right there in front of your face, and either you have to take it and deal with it, or you have to just sit there and keep fucking yapping with excuses and let your game die. That's gonna happen. It just is. That is where we're at. Because they keep trying these solutions that aren't actually working, that anyone with the brain could tell you aren't gonna work. That is where we're at. That is why we have, fucking not even 5K. Oh my bad. Not even 5K players on the game, and that's total. Like that's total. That's everybody. Like that is why the game is dying, because they constantly try to fix the game with solutions that aren't solutions. They're just shitty temporary things that they're trying out that are immediately going to have to get changed. And until they wake up and smell the flowers, the game's going to keep dying. Is what it is. I mean, I don't know. I've said it 100 times. I'll say it 100 more. They really, really have to fix this. And this is actually something I complained about. Like, whenever they added the new map, I was like, yeah, this is going to be a really big issue, because then it's it's going to make doing like something like a map rotation impossible, or you're just going to have another, like, you're adding more queues that are going to split the game up more, and which is already a big problem. Like, you don't want to add this many maps. Or what you do, another thing, is you just make it so certain maps are only active at certain times. Like, one day it's Goblin Caves, solo, duo, trio. The next day it's Blue Maelstrom, solo, duo, trio. The next day Crypts, solo, duo, trio. And then you make it like that, so you only have like one active thing that people can play per, like, at a time. Other than that, you got nothing. But yeah, that's gonna wrap it up for the video. Hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll catch y'all next time. Peace, peace.